Random rockers. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Based off of a book that was sort of a manuscript in the first book of the Harry Potter series. Is the Sorcerer's Stone, or the Philosopher's Stone, as it was known in the UK. Here in the US, Sorcerer's Stone. Anyway, and it follows the journey of Newt Scamander, and what eventually, of course, by the end leads to his eventual decision to write the book, but or at least the journey there is far more interesting. On top of that, we find out about another character. This mostly takes place in New York City in 1926. I'm guessing that's... I'm suck at history, so I'm guessing that's pre-World War One. I think it's pre-World War One, or was it still during World War Two? I'm sorry, I suck at history, guys. Correct me in the comments below if you have to. But regardless of that, and of course, it is one of those books that I believe Hermione, I think, was reading or was mentioning in passing while trying to, I guess, study for one of Hagrid's classes, I guess, or at least they all were, and I think, or at least that's the book that they were used to help to have to study for the classes on how to deal with magical creatures. And that's kind of, and Newt Scamander, you can tell he's kind of one of those PETA type guys. Or at least he's very socially awkward, his character is. Here. Played by Eddie Redmayne, of course. Eccentric, introverted wizard. Featured, of course, the future author of this textbook. That is, of course, the namesake of this movie, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And has been, and of course, an employee of the Ministry of Magic. There's a lot of nice little things you find out about him a little more of than some of the things that may have been mentioned in potentially in passing, more in the books than that of the movie, but it's been a while since I've read the books, and it's been a while since I've seen all the movies. I've seen pretty well all the movies, more than I actually wound up reading the books, though I missed part 2, and I feel sad that I missed part 2 of Deathly Hallows. But I heard it was so damn satisfying, and I'm hoping to see it and be just as satisfied. Anyway. Also starring a Catherine some of these names you may not know of. Catherine Watterson as Perpetina Goldstein, which apparently, from what I recently read, winds up being his actual wife, according to some other things here on my source. And I guess we see how that kind of turns up. We also have Dan Fogler, who's kind of a Christian Harloff lookalike, for those of you who keep up with shows know, as Jacob Kowalski, or as he's mostly referred to as the No-Maj, which we find out is what we here in America refer to non-magical people, or humans, normal human beings, that don't know how to use magic, as opposed to the British term used throughout the Harry Potter series, Muggles, who winds up helping him capture all these beasts that wind up in this case that somehow, through some weird circumstances, because he's very socially awkward, eccentric, and apparently a little clumsy, I guess, at times, and during those times, things happen to where he loses the case and these beasts get loose, most likely via the No-Maj, and of course he winds up helping him out throughout this whole time in this movie, of course with the help of Catherine Watterson's character as Tina Goldstein. Alison Solder plays as Queenie Goldstein, Tina's younger sister, who apparently is described as a bombshell, free-spirited, and big-hearted, and is accomplished in legitimacy. If I'm I think is what legitimacy, I think is what it's called. It's sort of a form of magical telepathy. I'm guessing is what you would call it. Colin Farrell plays as one of these other agents that works at the MACUS, the magical, which is, of course, the Magical Congress, or MCUSA is what it should be called, the Magical Congress of the United States of America. America. And throughout this movie, that's what goes on. However, there's a nice little side story involving a particular wizard character that's supposed to be second tier to Voldemort's character, Gellert Grindelwald. Which, that kind of comes into play later in the movie. The thing about this movie in general is what's cool is that this movie was actually being based off, of course, of that book. J.K. Rowling did the screenplay. First time she actually got fully involved in the movie, screenplay-wise. She's not doing any more books. All she did, and yes, the 8th book, the Cursed Child thing, doesn't really count. Most people will not count it, and nor should you, really. It's more just some playwright thing that don't think should really have happened, I guess. It's just something that was more of a cash grab thing. This, on the other hand, it seems legit as fuck. She got involved in screenplay, and of course got David Yates, who directed the last, I guess, since Goblet of Fire, of all those films since then, I think. Of course, my research is right now, but yes. Ron Perlman actually makes a sort of appearance, or at least voices one of the characters, named Norlac, a small little role in there as a goblin gangster who tries to, who runs this nightclub in New York. There's this secret nightclub, of course, in New York. We find out how the magical world is and how, the humans, we see how they kind of do get into how discrimination is back then, at least in terms of more focusing on within that of how the magical world is with that, as opposed to how people, you don't really see how people treated, blacks and all that stuff, not as so much, because, the lead president chick that's running the whole thing is apparently black, so at least the president is played by this chick named Cameron Ejogo. I'm not sure. Apparently Ezra Miller, our future Flash, in the movies specifically, plays a interesting role. Somewhat interesting role, or at least the reveal of his role is kind of interesting. It's not much of anything, because his character is just kind of meh. The only thing is his roles between him and a much more noted actor, aside from Eddie Redmayne, who plays our lead and his commander, is Percival Graves, played by Colin Farrell, and any movie he usually is in, even if it sucks, he does give his all. It's just a shame that everything else surrounding it, whether it be with whatever they do with his script, or the director in some of those films, just kind of and that's the thing. Like with Alexander and stuff like that, though some movies have proven to be pretty solid. Some I can't really remember. It sucks that I don't remember the ones that were actually really, really good, other than Seven Psychopaths, which if you haven't seen that, I highly recommend. Well, this film doesn't really super hint at everything that we've known with Harry Potter film universe so much, as it does try to be its own film, and it feels more like a standalone film, even though they kind of brought up, before this film had finally been released, they already brought out the news that we're going to get this is going to be 1 out of 5 films of a spin-off series here, and it's sort of a prequel, of course, as I said, taking place in New York City, 1926, so about 70, 60 years or so somewhere around there, prior to, or let's say half a century. Within that time frame, half a century, or like 40. No, I'm being stupid and wanting to quote Abraham Lincoln all of a sudden. The beer does that to you, I swear. Or Amish, I don't know. Regardless, back to the movie. Me rambling again. Always fun. Anyway. Movie overall, I had fun with this movie. Yates did great. Yates, Rollins' screenplay was, for her first time doing that, fantastically done. David Yates knew what to do because of he's not a stranger to the Harry Potter universe, so he knows how to handle the magic, how to deal with the magical world, and some of the cinematography, CGI. It might be a little dated in places. Maybe I wouldn't say dated or just off. I guess something off about him. Some of these creatures I couldn't really tell you, other than the ones that they mentioned. The one that they mentioned multiple times, and of course, the one that winds up playing a bigger part in this overall scope of what happens, where they go from dealing with just catching these beasts themselves to dealing with this bigger picture that's causing this chaos in New York that winds up somehow having clearly something to do with one of the main antagonists that we were introduced to in the beginning of this movie, Grindelwald. Which there is a somewhat of a kind of sort of a reveal. Just by saying that, I may as well have called it a spoiler, but not really. I mean, as long as you didn't hear the news about certain particular actor involved in this, I think you'll be fine. I already knew about it. Once I saw it, I was like, ah, that's nice. Very nice. Finally, a role that works for that actor. Since he's kind of been here and there lately. And not to mention some of the certain press he's been getting as well. I'm saying enough, I'd say, about that. Again, overall, guys, I enjoyed this film. I love the team dynamic between the Goldstein sisters, the Nomadge, and Newt Scamander. For the most part, where it does click, it clicks. For the most part, I don't. It's kind of funny because Newt Scamander was kind of annoying to me for some reason. I wanted to relate to him, but he just. I mean, it's just I couldn't grasp him as much. I mean, there were places where once they finally gave you some character development, you found a way to finally grasp onto him and be like, oh, seem a little sympathetic towards his character. But beforehand, he just looks at people like they're just stupid. Stupid when they don't know what the hell they're doing, or at least he doesn't trust in humanity or something because of certain issues that they mention briefly, but not really very detailed about it. At least they don't give you enough of a good enough detail to really kind of warrant that mentality he's been doing. But again, this overall, this film is awesome. You get to see I love to see a magical world in a whole different way, how it was then and here in the U.S. of all things. And apparently, the success it's been getting in word of mouth has led, of course, to 4 more films coming out. One, of course, will have something to do with the Grindelwald character, and apparently it's going to be in Paris. So what they're probably trying to do is they're not going to stick with one area of the world, of where the Wizarding World is, for certain. I guess they're going to focus on other places within certain particular time periods, or at least within the sort of early 1900s eras, I'm guessing, of this whatever. That's what I'm guessing they're trying to do, is they're going to go to certain big name places around the world and see how those areas handle dealing with the magical world, or at least with what that part of the magical world and those particular big name locations are going to deal with. We see how the U.S. handles it in 1926. How's apparently Paris, France going to be? And what other big name places that would be nice to just see how the magical world? Hell, I'd almost like to see China and see how they roll in the magical world, especially getting into some kung fu shit. That would be hilariously awesome. Ugh. Or Japan, for that matter, too. I mean, anywhere in Asia, I mean, that's going to be fun. I mean, you have Paris. I mean, hell, that'd be hilarious if they did one around Nazi Germany during, like, Nazi Germany era stuff. It'd be like, oh, it'd be so funny. Even though there's apparently an anime out there that's already kind of doing that. Could work. Could work for them to do something like that. Again, I'm ranting. I'm not really talking as much about it because it's hard for me to really talk about this without getting into maybe some super spoilerish details, or at least any subtle little hint things, as opposed to my rival video, which if you haven't seen it, go check it out. I don't know if I will leave a description in the link below. I'll decide that later after I'm done posting it, I guess. Regardless of that, I enjoy this film. It has its flaws. It really immersed me. You don't have to necessarily... What's great about this film is that you don't necessarily have to be involved in the Harry Potter universe to be able to watch this. And, which is good, and which is good, maybe a good or a bad thing, because some people... It's very polarizing. Apparently, I've heard some negative comments here and there. But I don't fully see that. I mean, I am a Harry Potter fan. I may not have fully immersed myself like some diehard fans might have, but I'd say they did enough to kind of capture how the magical world works in somewhere other than Great Britain or England or whatever. Or other than the UK specifically, I guess. And that's what I gotta say about that, man. And overall, part of me wants to say it rocks all the way. But for now, I think due to certain flaws, it's kind of put me in the thumbs up category. I still enjoyed. Don't get me wrong, it's like thumbs up, but barely to the point of barely getting to the horns, man. In terms of just how good this film is, I'll just say that much about it. It's a hard thumbs up, very light horns. Let's just go with that. It's kind of let's say it's a mixed bag, a positive mixed bag of sorts, if you will. Or mixed suitcase. In this case. Seeing the film, or at least seeing the previews, you get it. So. But again, overall, fantastic piece of work to find them. What did you guys think about this? Leave a comment below. Let me know. If you like this video, rock that like button if you must. Do the same on my Facebook page. Hell, follow me on Facebook. Hell, you can follow me on Google+. And if you do respond, hopefully I'll find a way to reply, even though I'm not as active on there as I am with Facebook. But regardless of that, doesn't matter. Keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking. I'll see you in the next video, which of course will be more music oriented this time. And it will be, if you hadn't got the hint on Facebook, if you caught up, Metallica. I'll also talk about another album that also came out this week, but I will talk about it briefly. My thoughts on that. I may get a controversy and heat for it, but I don't care. Let's face it, y'all just want to hear me talk about Metallica, then that band I will talk about in that video. So there is that. And, yep. But again, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking, and I will see you in that next video. And of course, eventually, if you're still wondering about the random recommendations I've been hinting towards, I'm still doing it. I'm still doing it. It's just going to be difficult, given that I'm trying to find other albums. There's some albums I still want to listen to, and I got to write them down. Usually I hate writing things down because I just hate feeling like I have to do homework. I like doing research, just not feeling like I'm still in high school. I'm out of high school. Fuck that. Research is fun. Homework is not. Most of you kids know that. Whether you're high school, grade school, college, whatever. I'm not saying education's bad for you, but because it's not. It's just how the education system is. Or at least the social aspect of it. It just didn't suit me. Well, enough of that rant. I'm starting to get ahead of myself. I'm sorry, but hopefully you got some enjoyment out of this video. For what little I was able to give to you about the film, and mostly about a bunch of rants. I will probably mention that in the title, so I give you fair warning. Alright. Again, see you all in the next video. Keep your rocking. Peace.